Hello and welcome to Comic Drake, where I talk about comic books and my name is Drake. So this is gonna be another one of those unscripted videos where I just kind of ramble because I'm upset. I'm really upset about the fictional relationships in comic books because we just had two major weddings happen in Marvel and DC Comics. Batman and Catwoman and Kitty Pryde and Colossus. Both of them didn't happen. The wedding happened, but the marriage didn't. Both times, the bride left the groom at the altar, and that makes me incredibly sad. So let's start with the biggest one that happened, the Batman-Catwoman wedding. This plot took over the Batman comics for like an entire year. Pretty much everything in the core Batman series had to relate to the engagement or the wedding itself in some way, shape, or form. There was a lot of investment in these two characters getting together. And there was even a tie-in miniseries called Prelude to the Wedding, which featured various members of the Bat family dealing with Batman villains. And then I guess also the Harley Quinn Joker one. I don't know if it's like the one exception. But yeah, there was a lot going on. And Selina ended up leaving Bruce because she had this realization that he couldn't be Batman if he was happy and married to her. And oh my god, I do not like that idea. You see, it really bothers me because Bruce has a lot of things to make him happy in his life. And this notion that Bruce can't be happy unless he's married to Selina kind of invalidates the growth that he's overgone over the years, especially with the Robins. If you guys know me, I absolutely love all of the Robins, and Bruce's relationship with them has been one of my favorite things about the entire Batman mythos. I really love his relationship with Dick and Jason and Tim and Damian, and I guess Stephanie. She doesn't really matter in the modern continuity since she was never Robin post-Flashpoint, but I digress. One of the things that I've always seen as fascinating about Batman is that he's portrayed as a loner, but between all of the different teams that he's worked for and that he's accumulated over the years, he actually has one of the biggest network of friends in all of superheroes. He's incredibly social, and he has a lot of people that he cares for and that care for him back. So, that gets me. That really rustles my jimmies. Now, my friend Dylan over at Orum's Comics made a similar video on this topic, and he said that if Bruce had been married would have hurt his war on crime, then that's awesome. Let him get married and then show that. If being married really did hurt Bruce Wayne's run as Batman, then show how Gotham reacts to that. Show Gotham starting to descend. Let it get a little more twisted. Let the crime start to rise up more and more and more. Let Selina come to the realization that, oh, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe Batman being a thing is a bigger deal than my relationship with this man that I love. It's the same core thing, but in the latter sense where we see Gotham descend, that just sounds a whole lot more interesting as a narrative concept. Now, all of that being said, I am a huge fan of Tom King as a writer. I've liked pretty much everything that I've ever read of his. And Batman number 50, the wedding issue, was written extremely well. I really did enjoy the book, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But then there's the Catwoman solo series. Now, I read the first issue that came out the same day as the wedding, and it was fine. What really gets me though is that the cover of Catwoman says, "I do or I don't, better read Batman number 50 and find out what I said," and it bothers me that it ties into the wedding a whole lot. Not only does it mean that Catwoman can't be her own entity outside of her potential husband, but it also means that if there's the question of yes or no, then she's going to have said no. If she said yes, then that wouldn't even be a question in the first place. That cover completely killed the reveal for me, and it makes me a little mad since that Catwoman issue has basically nothing to do with the wedding other than like one page. It's really not all that necessary to have read the wedding issue beforehand. The wedding of Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle is a complete victim of marketing. It really bothers me. There were comic book shops around me that were opening at midnight because this wedding was going to be a big deal. I was actually in Denton, Texas, and the comic book shop on their square was open at midnight with freaking wedding cake to boot to help promote this story that didn't go nowhere, but it was a big slap to the face for people who were really shipping these two super hard. Now, let's move over to the other big wedding, Kitty Pryde and Colossus. This was highly anticipated, but it got announced basically right after Bruce Wayne and Selina got engaged. And it really just felt like Marvel was trying to do the exact same thing as DC and kind of take the wind out of their sails in the process. Now, while Kitty and Colossus did take up a lot of the plot in the X-Men Gold series, it wasn't nearly as much as Batman and Catwoman, but it was still really, really prevalent. Now, while Batman and Catwoman did have these kinds of hints that this wasn't going to work out, it really seemed set in stone that Kitty and Colossus were going to get together, especially since Kitty was already engaged to Star-Lord and that fell through. Surely they wouldn't have Kitty walk away from another wedding. Well, she did. It's kind of underwhelming, honestly. Like, literally at the rehearsal dinner, Magic told Kitty that she was a little skeptical that this was going to work out. Since Kitty is her best friend and Colossus is her brother, she was there for the entire thing. And she said that if they were going to get married, then wouldn't it have happened by now? It seems a little weird that it's taking this long. And that's a fair statement, but I didn't think it was going to really eat away at Kitty as much as it did. And just a few pages later, there's the wedding, everything's great, everybody's happy, Storm is clearing out the weather, Kitty comes down the aisle, they're putting on the rings, and then boom, Colossus's hand phases through Kitty because she wasn't actually ready. And this is honestly one of the coolest ways they could have ever handled the leaving at the altar bit. It's something unique to these two characters, and I think it leaves a very iconic shot. Like I mentioned earlier, Kitty Pryde and Colossus got engaged pretty much right after Batman and Catwoman did, but they also got married before they could as well. So even the wedding had the wind taken out of the sails. Maybe I wouldn't be so bitter about Batman and Catwoman if I didn't just get another couple of characters that I love already go through this exact same kind of thing. It bothers me. It bothers me so much. But just like Batman number 50, this issue of X-Men Gold was also really well written too. I actually made a tweet saying that X-Men Gold number 30 is the best single issue of a comic that I read this year, which in retrospect might not totally be true since the ending of Invincible happened this year as well, and whew, that was really emotional for me. It was a good ending. It's probably better than the wedding, honestly, but for X-Men Gold number 30, the writing, the humor, the pacing, the art, everything was completely spot on. It felt like a roller coaster of emotions. There was so much being said and taken away. It was delightful. And here's another reason why it kind of salvaged it for me. Because even though Kitty and Colossus didn't get married, Gambit got on one knee and proposed to Rogue then and there. I mean, all of their friends and family were pretty much already present for Kitty and Colossus, so yeah, screw it, let's get married. And it was great to see them do that, so it wasn't a totally bitter time for X-Men fans, and it was a really nice payoff to the Rogue and Gambit miniseries that happened shortly beforehand. At the end of the day, X-Men fans were going to get something. It was going to be a big pair that they were shipping for a while, was getting some sort of actual conclusion. I'm also really excited for the Mr. and Mrs. X series that we're going to get out of it as well. Really, I feel like I wouldn't be as upset about either of these weddings if they weren't so similar. They were built up and they were heavily marketed, and even then, the bride pretty much only backed off because of what their friends said. In the Batman Catwoman wedding, it was one of Catwoman's friends that said this, and it turns out she was being manipulated by Bane, which I'm excited to see where the narrative potential of that goes, but a little weak sauce. And then in the Kitty Colossus wedding, it was Magic saying it. Both of these other characters were going into the bride's heads, planting seeds of doubt. So neither of them were truly the actual thoughts of the brides. That kind of parallel, it seems like they're both the same story, and I'm being let down twice. Man, I was excited to see the aftermath of Kitty Pryde and Colossus in the X-Men Gold series, but I gotta go through it with DC too. I got two books that I'm reading dealing with this kind of major relationship fallout. It's rough, and I know I'm so invested in these love lives of fictional characters. I shouldn't care, but I do. If anything, that is a testament to how good the writers of these books are. I really do like these characters, and I'm a little heartbroken because of it. But oh well, at the end of the day, at least we got Rogue and Gambit, so it wasn't a complete wash. Anyway, that's a little bit of my ramble ranting about these weddings. I'm beat. These are emotionally draining. Do you guys like this unscripted format that I'm doing? Let me know. I'm trying to do a bit more opinionated content here on the channel and make it interesting in the process, so let me know. But if you like this video, then why not consider subscribing or even watching another one? In fact, the last video that I did was another one of these unscripted ones, and it was about the Marvel villain Arcade. I kind of called him the Riddler of the Marvel Universe. So if this format appeals to you, then you might want to go check that one out as well. But anyway, I hope you learned at least a little something new, and hopefully I'll see you next time.